What's going on, YouTube? It's your favorite cancer patient here, Brandon with Trade Garage. Thank you for tuning in. So as we get into today, a little update. The website is live that we've finally been working on forever, taking some time off. And then, of course, in between my radiation and chemo treatments, I am dead. So very tired with my treatments here. So sorry, the updates are lackluster and so far in between some days. But without further ado, we finally got the soft launch of our website on an X. We're going to start posting more. We're streaming live every single morning. So if you want to trade with us, the description will be filled with all the links that'll bring you over by us. Let's take a peek at what we are looking at today and the narrations of chat that we did. So today in the market, I was looking for a pop to drop open, okay? Bearish sentiment. I go through a couple of different trades here that I post. We ended up at over 16 today, so great 8-day in numerology. So let's get into some of the calls that we made. And I do want to, touch base here on some of the stuff we do in our premium chat. So just bring it over to Discord here. You can see that, I narrate and trade through this pre-market. It's about 6:40 we're coming on. I said, it looks like the moving average 5-minute catch-up day for further longs if we hold them as support. So I was looking for that 200 SMA in the peach line right here to kind of catch back up and push us. And if you notice, we had our fib box, just like always. We'll go over in a minute here for that pre-market algo box. And we already had price action to the right side of that fib. So to come back up to that 100 fib and use that as an over-under to either here or down, that's what we were looking for. Now, obviously the sentiment was down because of the crazy Friday pop we had. So we noted in chat in the premium group here that we had some gaps underneath. We had a couple of different gaps rolling up on ES, and we'll go over those in a second here as well. And I said, watch the over under here, like we just talked about on the fib. So we had the 100 fib with this algo in pre. Okay, so that was our over under. So if it pushed past a little bit back here, and my target was going for the gap fill and back down to 527, and then using 527 for a further metric short. If the VIX could wake up, because the VIX had a gap here as well, which I mentioned right here in Discord. VIX trying to wake up to crack here. Back to the upside, nice 5-minute MAC crosses. So we're talking about the VIX there as the MACD is switching to a bullish narrative. And then it shied the gap and then pushed all the way back up in some chops. So we narrated this whole pre-market going for that short, talked a little bit about our website launch, so on and so forth. So let's get into some of these trades here. Now we'll start with the SPY, and we traded both here. And this is the algo I was talking about here this morning that we have in pre-market. So this pre-market algo snapped back and forth. It was at 3 a.m. Equity open, right? Central time for me. And I did a Fibonacci. It doesn't matter which way you go with it, up, down. This one is pointed to the downside. Out here for data, that is our data that we had got for ISM here box and here box. So literally only using the two Fibonacci back test and the over under of the moving average, which we were talking about on the 5-minute chart. That's how we developed most of these trades, along with the gap on the ES, which we'll go over in a second here. So pre-market algorithm, we had this beautiful gap here, and we waited for the back test. And one of our members, JQuest, I think it was, should we fib out the data candle intraday as well? Because we had data at 9 a.m. Central. Absolutely, you can do either or. It's not if a Fibonacci works out, it is when a Fibonacci works out. So whether you were utilizing the pre-market Fibonacci right here, or a live Fibonacci here, or even this algo at 8 o'clock, each one of these are going to be a when, not if. They will definitely work out in the Fibonacci world as far as support, resistance, and trend if you let it, right? So just pick one and stay patient. So to the backside here, we had a fail of the 100 fib, and that was my big short thesis. Anything under the 100 fib with this box, we were going to head down, right? So we broke into that, came all the way down to yesterday's close highs. This was the initial gap fill, okay? Because price action started up here, yesterday's highs is down here, thus creating a gap in price action from the pre-market run-up and yesterday's highs at this orange dashed line, right? So we have that disconnect, we have that gap up. So that probably wasn't going to hold. We just didn't have any reason for it. And again, as we mentioned, this guy right here, nasty force up at the end of the day. This is why we're looking for pullbacks. This is a very unnatural section of candles that came up for a monster squeeze right before the weekend, right? And if you notice on my Twitter post, I posted, or X, whatever you want to call it, we posted on X saying that we were looking for this specific daily gap to actually fill on Friday, and it did. It just filled really wonky, right? So I made a couple different posts on it. I wanted the gap to fill above us, right? and we used a couple different instruments for that. Now, this is the gap that I was talking about, and it left a tiny gap between yesterday's lows for that. So right here, I said target long was up here at 525.22, and that's where we wanted to see it, but we needed to stay over moving averages is inside the gap in which we made right here. So this is a daily gap right here, this giant box that's charted out, and we did fib out that gap as well, because that is a interesting metric. I can't really get into it too much on how my trading systems work. For the premium members, it is just nicer to them. Can't release everything for free. So that 525 push that we had seen there on Friday, so we had this gap down here, and I said, yeah, it's going to come back up for that gap fill. Well, here's 525, and here's that gap fill. It opened up, right? It missed that top of the gap fill, came back down, and I said, oh, that's really weird because gaps, a double gap on the daily like this generally fills like 90% of the time. And all of a sudden, slam, bam, filled at the very last half hour of the day with this monster squeeze, right? So the play did happen, and it worked out according to our X post, but man, was that ugly. So with that unnatural movement, slamming all the way back up, we had some stuff to backtest here. Volume area high from yesterday was insane. The POC was insane. So you got to think we are so extended up here in pre-market and through the night trading, right here and right here. This is the volume area high of yesterday, the highest point of volume, right? So you see where that first dump of the morning comes down to that volume profile consolidation and then continues down, right? So if you do that line to the top, we've seen right here, okay, well, we have that downside. My first target was that 527. To that short side after data, and then if you use the intraday data, Fibonacci pointing to the downside, it got you these two fib markers. Now, they weren't super clean, but they worked out accordingly. I used just this pre-market fib myself, and if you would have pointed this to the downside, which we didn't really need to do because I used moving averages today, you would still have a very clean setup, and I'll go over both of those right now. So if you would have used this one right here to the downside, and this is the one I chose for specific reasons that I give my premium chat. Right here, we have that golden pocket and reversal bounce, right? So let's get into that. The opening drive here, again, I was short biased, lost the 0% because that's the top fib, and then data let us back down, right? So we go for the gap fill. That's major support because we had a gap between opening price action and yesterday's highs, that gap right there. So we close that gap, then what happens? We hit support, and then it pushes back off the golden pocket, but then does what? This is what I called live from my chat, a back test of moving averages, okay? On the breakthrough right here on price action and the retrace, we have a lot of moving averages to worry about. The dashed peach line right here is the 200 SMA. The green hard line, 100 EMA, and the purple dash line is the VWAP, right? So I said those will probably do a back test and carry on until our leg down because we need big threes in the market. Three things generally come in the market. One push down, two push down, three push down, reversal, okay? So generally speaking, we played the lower trend. So I said short the lower highs on both of these to continue the short. And I said down to 527. So that perfect Fibonacci algorithm this morning came back down to that golden pocket yesterday's highs, pushed, found resistance directly where we needed it to on the back test, right? Because we slid through right here. You can see this candle sliced right through all the moving averages, back tested those moving averages, continued short. We had a consolidation drop right here. And we had sellers in control, sellers in control, sellers in control. One little hard buyer right there. We said we could scalp this long because that would be a decent little long setup for the second leg. So we came down here and said, yeah, go ahead, long it off the weekly standard deviation. So this was a long call that we made right off the long deviation live as well. And this netted us about 10 points. I would have liked it to go back to 527 back test, but we might get there later on. We'll see. But we did net about 12 points off this. We played that one for a further gain on counter trend. And then, of course, we broke back down. And like I said, a back test of moving averages I was most worried about. So let's talk about the fibs. We went through the box. And where do we usually go after we lose? 1618. Two things generally happen. Well, there's only two things that can happen, really, when it comes down to the 1618. I generally like to see it back test the 100, then continue to the 2618, or it never does and creates extra weakness. And what I mean by that is a shy, right? The price action actually never makes it to its destination. It did this twice. When this happens, we need to start looking more to the deep downside, right? More to the trend side than we do the retraceable counter trend side. Because when price action slipped through that fib and came to the 1618, generally comes back to the 100 for backtest, then loses more of the 1618 down to the 2618. This being the re-entry right here for a short, right? But we got one really early back here that I was talking about for those moving averages. And once we broke back out, we never came back and tested this 100 fib for the algo. So it shied it. There's no price action leading up to it. So the consolidation here was heavier to the sell side during this consolidation because it shied away, and it shied away from bigger resistances that it could have hit on a regular retracement. But this is an extra weak retracement, thus not getting back to some of our targetable prices. So 527 was something we needed to see. And this consolidation broke down, and boom, your second target, big one on the short, 2618, also the back test of the 666 SMA. And I use this on the 5-minute chart a lot in the lighter purple here. So those moving average back tests were needed. And again, why would I look for that? Well, it was the pressure again of yesterday. I'm looking at this really unnatural squeeze up, and I'm like, man, that's massive. Like, it needs to pull back. We don't have a catalyst for continuation on this marker at all. And one of the bigger things for back test moving average confirmation is when stuff snaps through a moving average, like you see the price action do here, 200 SMA and 666. Both of those needed a back test on price action, right, to confirm strength or weakness. So I figured when we came into that very extended volume area high over and so on and so forth from yesterday's volume area high, that's a volume area that we needed to come back and test. So what happened to those moving averages? Well, they became confirmational tests. So we never had a back test to the 666. So I figured coming back down to here would be the last of my little bonus round short. And then coming from a confirmational test of the 200, right? So snaps through the 200, rejects the 200, chases down the 666. Those two things needed confirmational backtests because we never got them. So now we have completed the Fibonacci stretch down to almost the lower 423.60. It almost hit there, I think. Let's go back down. Yeah, pretty close. So that fib just from pre-market, we shied that 423.60, but this is a bonus round. This is like less than 15% chance in the single day trade to get out to the 423.60 being this wide. We got about like an 80% chance hitting this 1618, the rather 20 some here, maybe let's call that 5, but it's a very, very minimal. There's a lot of journaling I have and a lot of back testing percentages that I have that really do not show the 423.60 in play a lot of the times, unless it's a very tiny fib. And this one is relatively small, but for what the day was and yesterday's force up, it was a little easier for us to play. So it came all the way down to the 2618. We got the big 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Now we're pushing up 1. Now we're on number 2. And number 3, that would net us back up near that 527 we're looking for the retrace and end the day's trading, right? So this is the kind of flow of trading you're interested in and want to trade with us. Check out that description again. Give us a like, give us a comment. We trade with Apex Trading funded accounts. We trade live every single morning on our personal website here. Stream for you guys, multiple teachers, big community, really, really, really talented community, because it's not just me trading. There's a lot of people posting a lot of stuff in our talented chat, which is fantastic. So if you guys want to stop in, check it out, give me a shout, hit me up on X. We got discount codes for our launch this week, and then those go bye-bye. So we'll talk to you guys on the next recap. Thanks for stopping in.